Hey, good morning, friends. Hello, hello. How are you this morning? Hello, hello. Good morning, Irene. How are you? I have my sailing mug this morning. I think I saw that you got to do some sailing this weekend. That looked awesome. There's no better place to be. Good morning, Donna. I'm glad you're well. Good morning, Bonnie. Glad you're here. Good morning, everybody. Yes, yes. Hello, hello. Deb Votrin. Good, everyone. Good morning, Deb. So glad you're here this morning. Hope you had a great weekend. Good morning. Good morning, John. Let's put focus over here as I pack orders. Well, I'm right there. I'm right there with you. I'm fairly split too. So hope everybody's well this morning. Hope you are doing great. We are coming back to another week these days. How are you all? How are you? How was your weekend? How is things treating you this mid-May journey? Good morning, good morning. We had as you know, I talked about it last week. We had the opportunity um, last Saturday to dedicate to the wall on at in Bicentennial Park and Veterans Memorial Park down in Fall River, and it was really something. And I'm still collecting my thoughts about it. I'm going to talk about it, but not today. But because I really want to share some of my reflections with you. But I'm still putting it together because it was that powerful in some ways. Like some of the experiences of it. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming. But um, yeah, it was a powerful event. And good morning, Sherry Ladd. Glad you're here. Good to see you. So welcome everybody. We are here on this Tuesday. It is on another 11:11, and I am so glad that each of you are here together today. That we have the chance to come and see maybe some familiar names, maybe see some unfamiliar names, maybe see a new name pop up in our chat this morning. Good morning, Fannie Faye Davis. So glad you're here. So we're joining together this morning. So this Tuesday on the 18th day of May. We are over halfway through May, friends. The 18th day of May uh, at another 11:11, and I am so glad that each of you are here. This morning, I want to tell a little story, and I know I think some of you have actually even been to these places, or I think Irene has, and maybe a few other of you. Uh, but I want to talk about Paul in the Areopagus this morning. I want to talk about Paul, this grand story. This is one of the central stories of Paul's ministry in Christianity. If you know about it, that's great. If you have no idea what an Areopagus is, that doesn't really matter. But because I want to talk about it this morning from maybe a little different way than you've heard it talked about before. But I'll read you some of the story So Paul is in Athens, in Greece, and Athens is this super cosmopolitan city. We can think of it maybe not as New York, but it's completely boho. It is completely bohemian. It is all the things that we imagine to be um, that we imagine Athenian culture to be. And so it is full of philosophies and Stoics, and also full of idols. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and bring us all around to hopefully where we end up as people journeying together, and this time, and where we look to and where we find our encouragement and our instruction and our uh, power and direction of travel. And so stay with me. So so here is Paul in Athens. While Paul was waiting for them in Athens, he was deeply distressed to see that the city was full of idols. So he argued in the synagogue with the Jews and the devout persons, and also in the marketplace every day with those who happened to be there. Also with some of the Epicureans and the Stoic philosophers debated with him. And some said, "What does this babbler have to say?" And others said, "He seems to be a proclaimer of foreign divinities." This was because he was telling them the good news about Jesus and the resurrection. So they took him and brought him into the Areopagus, and they asked him, "May we know what this new teaching is that you are presenting? And it sounds rather strange to us, so we would like to know more about what it means." And now all the Athenians and the foreigners living there would spend their time in nothing but telling and hearing something new. When Paul stood in front of the Areopagus and said, "Athenians, I see how extremely religious you are in every way. For as I went through the city and looked carefully at the objects of your worship, I found among them an altar with the inscription, 'To an unknown God.' What, therefore, you worship is unknown. This I proclaim to you, the God who made the world and everything in it. He who is Lord of heaven and earth does not live in shrines made by human hands, nor is he served by human hands, as though he needed anything, since he himself gives to all mortals life and breath and all things. From one ancestor he made all nations to inhabit the whole earth, and he allotted the times of their existence and the boundaries of the places where they would live, so that they would search for God and perhaps grope for him and find him, though indeed he is not far from each one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being. For in him we live and move and have our being. As even some of your own poets have said, for we too are his offspring." So the Areopagus, this big area where they would go to fight about and discuss these different philosophies and these different pieces and parts of how the world really worked. And Paul, always up for an argument, uh, ends up getting into wrangling with them, and as a babbler, as a we preachers are always kind of like, well, we might be a babbler too. Possible. Hopefully you try not to do, we try not to, but so here he is, and his big outrage here is that he's found that it is a city full of idols. Now, do we need to spend a little bit of moment on understanding what an idol is, and that because I think this actually is a little is really key in our walk right now, because so idols now we think about this, and it doesn't make sense for us now, this kind of idol worship, or that you'd carve a god out of, the most famous example being the golden calf, that you would, collect all your jewelry, melt it down, put it in a bowl, and and then worship that. But understand, this is a world of great powers and spirits. This is a world in which these things are around and roaming in and amongst us. And I would say it's no different than the world today. There are still great spirits that roam and work amongst us. We just name them other things. But the nature of the world has not changed. So what you would do, and how you did this, is that you had this intersection between materiality and between this god, and this demigod, this daemon, that's actually the Greek word for it, was daemon. Sounds like something else. Yes, that you would create the figure, whether it was the golden calf or the idol, and it would become a demon trap. It would become a god trap. That's what it was. There are many gods wandering around, but I want my own god, and I want my own god to be able to do the things that I need the god to do, right? So if I'm going to trap a god, so they create this great wooden or great structure, or they create the golden calf, and there would be this series of rituals and sacrifices which would kind of sucker a god into showing up there, and then the trap would spring, and there would be your god. There would be a god trapped inside of this little we think of I think one of our last kind of vestiges of understanding of it is it maybe the genie in the lamp. You rub on the lamp and the genie comes out. Well, this when we talk about idols, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about this sense where they've trapped this god in, and so now you both get to ask the god for things, and you also have to serve the god. This is what Paul is talking about when he's talking about these are not gods served by human hands, and they need nothing, and they are but this God, this unknown God that he claims is the one that gives life. You see, it was a way of managing the powers of our world, was to have this little idol. And so I would submit to you, we have all kinds of ways to manage the powers of the world. We use technology to have all the information at our fingertips, that about what will happen. Today we turn to the weatherman. Today we all of these things that the ancients would do. They weren't dumb, and we are smart. We simply canted the world in a different way. But the world is still the world, and there's still these powers out there. The weather is still going to happen. There's that events will still take place in our life that we control or we don't control. But I want you to hear how Paul reframes this. And again, this is a lot of this is considered like the great evangelist moment by Paul on Mars Hill to stand among the pagans and change the whole world. I'm not really interested in that. We can talk about that another day if you want. But it is this phrase that he says, "For in Him, in Christ, we live and move and have our being." And do you see? Do you see it? This is the exact opposite of the God trap that they're in. They've got this God trapped in the background. It's this God that they can ply with sacrifices and with offerings, trapped in their little block, in their little golden calf, and that they can get things from. But it's the but what Paul is presenting is this upside down reality, that for in Christ we live and move and have our being, that we are his offspring. Now, what is the whole point of this? What is this? Why am I spending your Tuesday morning talking about idols and idol worship and this notion of where we put our authority and the way Paul is inverting this? Because I think and this is this and it, that there's this way in which we, you and I, on this journey that we've been on over these last years, or if you're new to this community and you're here, hey Rosalia, good morning. I'm so glad you're here. That and then another beautiful example of this journeying that we're doing together. That I don't know if I will ever see Rosalia's face on this side of the mortal coil, but she is real and a part of our journeying together, and that she too has her life in Christ. In him we live and move and have our being. You see, for the idolatry of the ancients that Paul was dealing with, they found the locus. They found the locus of power to be outside of humanity, to be in the demons, to be in the daemons, to be in the gods. And there are many gods. There are even the many Elohim. There. We live in a pantheistic world. We live in a world with many gods, and I can talk about that some other day too. But there are many things that get many objects of worship and localities of power and principle in this world. I think you know that. To simply look at any sports team, and you understand that there is an object of worship going on here. And again, I'm not banging on sports that it's bad or anything like that, but to simply look at how humans interact with that. In Paul's little inversion, and Paul's little turning upside down of the world as the gods in their little wooden houses or their little golden houses and their little golden traps being served sacrifices. Now we live in, remember we said the demon gets trapped, the God gets trapped and lives in the object, and now we possess our God, and now we can get our God to do things for us, and we can manage that power. Where do we live? We live in, right? We live in Christ. In him we live and move and have our being. Which means, if you want that one of the things that kind of that I think even the the modern yogis get right is the namaste at the end of a yoga session, that the God in me salutes the God in you. The Christ in me salutes the Christ in you. Now that's not you, like you've got a little, now this isn't Gnosticism where you've got a little chip of Jesus over there and I've got a little chip of Jesus over here, and if we just can get out of this mortal coil and get them all back together, then everything will be assembled. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying the locust of power, the locust of divinity has come to be in you and in I. That God did, we're in this time of ascension where we just had the ascension on Sunday, that God has left. And we're going to talk about that actually on next Sunday, on Pentecost this coming Sunday. God's left, and it's good that God leaves so that we can be the locust of Christ's energy and love and grace in this world. You see, I've spent this whole year, spent this whole time, I hope you're still with me. I know this is we're down a little bit of a rabbit hole today, but I really hope you've stayed this far and gotten along, because I really want to bring it back to us and this time of 11/11 that we've had together. And again, whether you're with me in the live stream right now or whether you're catching this over time, if you've noticed, I've had this ability to, I've pulled a lot of quotes, I've pulled a lot of topics, and I wanted to share with you some of the sources today, because and I wanted to share with those because they're not sources, they are gifts to me from other people, that other people, human beings, flesh and blood, all the things that we have as humans going on, that they consolidated and created and put together so that we might be able to be here in this space, in this time. So I want to share with you this book first, which is called Starlight, Sic Iter ad Astra, which is so this is a book of quotes, in a book of thematically put together by my friend uh, Emily Jane Lamole. And Emily Jane she has 2 volumes of these. The second one's getting ready. You can get this on Amazon. I find this has been the stalwart in our conversations. If you want to review the quotes of the last year, many of them come from the Starlights. There's volume 1 and volume 2 is going to be out soon. Uh, and that and I tell you that because it was in her that God implanted this passion to create and collect these quotes. It was in her that God gave the intellect to organize and put together. It was in her that all these things came to being, that she had the effort and the energy and the work and the capability to put all that together. And in gifting that to me, it has informed all of us and our journeys and our life. This whole little passage that we think about from Paul in Athens, about how crafty Paul is, about how great an evangelist he is, all these sorts of things, it has nothing to do with that. It has to understand that in Christ we live and move and have our being. That Christ has made a home in us. And that when I look at Emily Jane's work, it is a sign to me, it is a pointer toward that very thing, towards the home God has made in me and the home that God has made in you, and the way that binds together through this time. Yeah, you can just say, oh, it's a collection of quotes and wisdom. They had collection and quotes of wisdom back then, and what about Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics, and you can go down. But that is not the point. That's not the journey of this last year with you and I. That's not the journey of this whole great and beautiful assembly that we've been a part of and that you're a part of right now. That as God makes his home in us, not in some wooden thing out there, not in some golden calf out there, not as a power and a principality that we have to try and manage or correct or control, but that God makes his home with us, and whom we become the vessel of God's grace and God's peace and God's love in this world. And Emily Jane gave me this great gift of it. And I just wanted to share a couple other ones that have been a part of our journey, because I hope that what this kind of arcane thing that I just talked about, this kind of the way the ancients used to organize their world, is actually not that different than right now. We go to the temple of Walmart looking for our satisfaction, to gain power and control over the world. We go to the temple of sports to gain power and control and idea over the world. We go to the to all manner. We go to the temple of food and to gain manner and control over our world. Like these principalities and these places that are locusts outside of ourselves are not different than they were then. But the one who made us, the one who called us into being, the one who came into the world to save us and to bring us home, makes his home with us. So when I read the quotes to you that my friend Emily Jane collected, I also honor the fact that God made his home with her. And that resonates, and that light that she shines has shined through me to you in these days. Now, another guy is Anthony DeMello. DeMello was a priest for many years. He is dead now, but he had a knack for collecting stories and for collecting quotations, and he published them again and again and again. These little collections of wisdom are places that I have found that the light in me has been encouraged, that the Christ in me has been encouraged. Now, I've gone through all of this to invite you into your own encouragement in these days. Who are the points of source of Christ that you find in this world? Reach out to them. Spend time with them. Let them know what they have offered you in the ways that they have done it. Now, your friends probably didn't publish a book of quotations, or maybe they did, but whatever it is, where you have found Christ dwelling in others, honor it. Let the light shine to you. I gave you homework last week about blessing somebody, and that's part of this. But it's also, the other part is really letting yourself be blessed. The great Walt Whitman said that to keep your face always towards the sunshine, and shadows will fall behind you. Now, isn't that trite and treacly and boring and old and absolutely true? And absolutely true. There have been any number of days in which I have stood before you on this long journey as discouraged as any one of you have been this year, with my heart unsettled and possibly broken over the events of what's taken place in our journeying. And yet I could turn my eyes towards Emily Jane or DeMello or maybe my Puritan friends in the Valley of Vision, and in their deep and heartfelt prayers. And that's for me. I'm not saying you have to be like me. We're all wired differently, and we're all going to find it in a different way and a different place. We'll speak different love languages. We'll hear Christ's voice in different pitches and different octaves. We'll sing different songs. I don't expect you to find it as I find it. I'm telling you today how I have found it, so that you can understand that it's not in some locus of power outside of you, but it is that God has come to dwell with us. And we live and move and have our being in Christ. And in that, you and I, we are lifted up and called home and brought into the beauty and the grace that God has in store for us, that we might be able to light our lamp, not because we are so tough and because we are so grand, but because we encounter the light in another person. not in a power or a principality or in an idol or in another piece of cheesecake or in a chocolate chip cookie or in another unnecessary plastic object from Walmart or in another righteous political rant on Facebook or in another uh, uh, way and way that we've managed to seek from outside of you and I, seek outside of our humanity, the grace and peace and love which we most desperately need and for which we are born. For in Him, for in Christ, we live and move and have our being. And we find that in you and I, and this little crazy little assembly of coming together on 11/11, this crazy little journey that we have around this our glorious church here in Fall River, in this small but real and powerful spark of candle lighting and encouragement that we have found through these days. Another great encourager is a guy by the name of Mark Nepo, and he's got some great reflections and but one of the things he says, this is what our heart knows beyond all words, and I think he puts this well. This is what our heart knows beyond all words. If we can find a way to listen, that beyond our small sense of things, a magnificent light surrounds us, more than anyone could ask for. This is what prayer as gratitude can open to us. There is a magnificent light that surrounds us because we live and move and have our being in Christ. I'm going to leave you with a prayer today, which is from St. Augustine. Remember, Augustine's around about the 3rd century. So this is about, these words are, they're translated and they're buffed up over 1,700 years, but they're 1,700 years old. I want you to hear them as a prayer to the one who lives and moves and has his being. God of life, there are days when the burdens we carry chafe our shoulders and wear us down, when the road seems dreary and endless, and the skies gray and threatening, when our lives have no music in them, and our hearts are lonely, and our souls have lost their courage. Flood the path with light, we beseech you, and turn our eyes to where the skies are full of promise. Spend your days today, friends. Spend your days today looking to where the skies are full of promise. For me, it's been the work of my friend Emily Jane Lamole, and that has been a blessing to you as well, I hope. If you're still here, it's probably got to be that we might look and turn our eyes to where the skies are full of promise, not to where the powers and principalities have been trapped up so that we can do something with them, but that the light that shines through each one of us as a child of God, for we are his offspring. All right, friends, that's our invitation for today. I am so glad that you're with us, and thank you for that little journey. I know it was a little longer one today, but I think it is worth it. I hope so. I hope it's worth it for you anyway. Uh, Peace and grace to you all. We'll pick it up tomorrow with another 11:11.